So welcome to the second module of the Open Heritage Adaptive Reuse Training Program. As we said, the Open Heritage training is part of the Open Heritage Project, which is a Horizon 2020 funded project. And we're looking into the different ways in which heritage can be adopted within adaptive reuse. We're looking today into the Convento delle Cappuccinelle. Now let's go over to Naples in this very, very interesting convent that has had a very, very adaptive reuse history throughout the years. Here you find a very short summary of what has happened over the years. Now, in 1585, the convent was founded, but it then became a juvenile observation institute and then rehabilitation institute. It was only in the 1980 that the building was abandoned after the Irpinia earthquake, which was a very, very strong earthquake that happened in the region around Naples. It was in more recent years that it was then abandoned for many decades, and it was only in 2015 when the complex was occupied by the Scacomatto organization, Scugnizzo Liberato, which was an activist group which reused the building with a number of activities. And throughout this that were with a social impact and community use. And it was only in 2019 that the city of Naples assigned €7.5 million for the restoration of the convent of the Cappuccinelle. And this opened a number of questions that are very relevant in terms of heritage reuse. For instance, which parts of the building should be kept, which should be demolished, and overall, how could the building also take a new life? Now, what is particularly interesting in the case of this former convent is the fact that imagine it's in a very dense neighborhood of Naples. You will be able to see. We invite you to see in the next round the video where you will also meet some of the people that have been actually activating the neighborhood and the site of the Convento delle Cappuccinelle in itself. Now, in 2015, this local grassroots group actually activated it by creating a number of activities that were such as language courses, after school, sports, dance, theatre, but also creating co-working craft labs, because the idea was really to become a community hub that was activated through the grassroots. In 2019, the local politics in Naples saw a season in which these grassroots initiatives were recognized as valuable assets for the community. And very often these spaces took place in what was considered heritage, either, as in this case, also from a legal point of view, but nevertheless as a heritage recognized by the local communities that recognized a history and a value in these buildings as assets. In fact, what is particularly interesting in a more detailed part of the history, why are we saying that people recognized an incredible value in these buildings, is the fact that at first, back in the 1585, the convent was established by the Duchess Eleonora Scarpato, who was and created a shelter for young women who was, obviously this had an important aspect. A lot of the social welfare at the time was done by the monarchs of the reign of the Two Sicilies, as it was called, so the reign of southern Italy. It was first enlarged in 1613 and then additionally in 1712. First renovated in 1809 and this is when it became a juvenile detention center. And as you can see, it was running for approximately 70 years with this role. And it was only when it was closed down by due to the earthquake, it was then abandoned for a number of years, partially renovated also because of the construction of a theatre in the parts of it. supported by the very famous Italian theatre actor and Edoardo De Filippo. And it was only then that there started becoming discussions about the possibility of turning it into a multifunctional center, to which then we have the more recent history, which we have spoken to you about. And it's interesting what Vincenzo Vidone tells us. I spent about 1 year in the Filangieri Institute. I'm still very grateful to Edoardo Di Filippo, who supported the renovation of the theatre. Thanks to him, we had the possibility to leave our cells and experience different activities. Before that, we were locked in our cells 24/7. Just getting out of there was so important to us. So here we see the incredible importance that it had, the possibility of having multifunctional activities, additional, such as the theatre, to the juvenile center, detention center. And this is why when we say the importance of the heritage, the possibility of opening up such a closed space to the community and to the neighborhood, a place that was always very segregated, and especially for such a emotionally also complex activity such as a juvenile detention center, nowadays offers the possibility of sharing part of the history of the city, of the neighborhood, of the lives of the people that used and lived this space in sorrow, but also opening up to the community and also accessing problematic youth in the neighborhood, creating new opportunities. And this is why it's very important to look into what happened into the most recent years. When we said that in 2015, and it was at the end of September, the Scacomatto group occupied what was then the abandoned building and launched the Scugnizzo Liberato. This is Italian speakers will immediately get the connection of the words. For those who don't, it's a playful game over the words, because scacomatto is when the last move that you do in chess when you're winning, and Scugnizzo Liberato is the freed Scugnizzo, which is a youngster from a Neapolitan neighborhood. So this is the opportunity that was done, playing also with the fact that many of the youth that was segregated in this place used to often have also psychological and psychiatric problems. So this is also why it was so important also to open up this space. And here we'd like to share another quote from Cristiano Ferraro this time. The Scugnizzo Liberato shows that despite there being many abandoned spaces in Naples, they are still able to add to the vitality of the city. A sort of pride is hidden behind the people who are engaged in transforming this ancient place into a collective one. It is a way to take back what was and has always been ours. Scugnizzi, the youth, the Neapolitan youth, are those rebels who aim to free Naples from everything that is choking its potential. Scugnizzi do not need prisons, but alternatives to become new partisans of the community's needs and wishes. Here again, we have a definition of heritage that is coming from a very grassroots and lived resemblance of the community. And this is something that is particularly relevant for the open heritage